Hello, my name is Marcus. Welcome to Extraordinary, where ordinarily I interview ordinary people with extraordinary outlooks on life. But every so often, to spice things up, the actor Ed Stoppard takes over the ship's wheel and navigation systems to deliver B-sides, where Ed speaks to a person of note about a hidden passion. As luck would have it, this is indeed one of those weeks, and Ed has managed to secure the talented actor Mark Bonnar. Over to Ed and Mark. Can we start by saying, how do you both know each other? Which TV or film project brought you both together?
Funnily enough, it was neither. It was a hotel room in Montreal, in Canada, that brought us together.
That's what.
I've been a fan of Ed's for a long time. I was a little overexcited to see him at the breakfast table, or at a breakfast table when we were both in Montreal doing a game called Assassin's Creed Black Flag, giving our very best various Bristolian accents.
I was going for East Anglia.
We did happen to work together on Home Fires, which was God,
those were the days.
Those were the days.
We filmed Home Fires in 2014 and Black Flag.
Gosh.
God. I mean, and just bear in mind, actually, on Black Flag that we spent, I don't know, what was it, a week or something? In a Velcro wetsuit.
With dots stuck to you.
And
a very, very, very tight helmet.
That's right.
Your head is like clamped in a vice with a camera 6 inches from your face, and as Ed says, a very tight wetsuit with dots all over it, and surrounded in a room surrounded by cameras. It's quite unnerving actually at first, because you know that your every move is being analysed, and you've got to kind of somehow act in amongst all that as well. It was a steep learning curve, I thought.
It was quite daunting, and it certainly made me aware of how much I wave my arms around when I'm acting. Which apparently isn't good.
Ed, should you be probing your guests as to the nature of this podcast?
All right, so look, I'm going to do a little kick-off.
Mm-hmm.
Righty-ho. Welcome to another episode of B-Sides, where I probe the soft underbelly of my guest, looking to reveal their hidden passion beneath. That guest today is a brilliant actor, a thoroughly lovely man, and on the death of Sean Connery, he will officially become Scotland's sexiest man. He is, of course, Mark Bonnar. Mark, welcome.
What a great intro. I've not had one like that before.
This is bucket list stuff for me. I've had a bit of a secret crush on Mark from the get-go.
Have you?
If I'm honest.
Entirely reciprocated.
I have actually said in print that you're my favourite actor. I've definitely said to interviewers when they said, who's your favourite actor? And I've said, actually, it's Mark Bonnar.
I'm blushing.
I'm now going to make that case. And I'm simply going to do it by reading the names of some of the shows you've done in the last few years. The much-missed Home Fires, of which we did 2 series.
Much-missed Home Fires.
Catastrophe.
Yes.
Seminal series of Line of Duty. Unforgotten. Apple Tree Yard. Shetland, which has been running for what, 7 years?
7, 6. We're coming up for Series 6, yeah, so 7 years.
And a whole bunch of things which I haven't mentioned. Mark, you are, for me, pound for pound, you're the best in the business. All right, listen, here we go. Now, one of the USPs of this podcast is that I do not know what my guest's B-side is, what their hidden passion is. All right, I'm completely in the dark. So I'm now going to ask Mark to reveal to me and the nation. Mark, would you please share with us your B-side?
For those playing at home and our studio audience, my B-side is I'm a drummer.
Oh, I don't believe it. You're joking. You're joking.
No.
But I can't believe, but at the same time, of course, I can believe that your B-side has actually just made you even cooler. Honest to God.
You haven't heard my drumming yet, mate.
Yeah, but like, in my head, I was thinking that maybe you were like doing work for the UNHCR in a refugee camp or something. Drumming! How did you get into drumming?
When I was about probably 11 or 12, I was the bands that I was into at the time all featured really cool, brilliant drummers. I loved Adam and the Ants, who had two drummers, and a great kind of savage tribal beat behind most of their songs, certainly on Kings of the Wild Frontier. I loved Blondie, who have arguably the best drummer in the world in Clem Burke. And I had a vinyl, an LP of Queen's Greatest Hits, which I think somebody bought me for my birthday. And Roger Taylor was my kind of starting point with drumming. So I don't know what it is. I can't remember exactly what sparked the first kind of thing. We lived in a kind of council block of 4 in Loch End in Edinburgh. So basically you opened the door and walked straight into the living room. It was one of those houses, So off the living room was 2 bedrooms and a kitchen and a bathroom. And my mum and dad's bedroom was the biggest. And I used to go in there with my dad's big silver headphones on, which stretched through from the living room because they had a long lead. And I used to listen. I used to put on Queen and play with my mum's knitting needles on pillows. I think it's every single drummer's story that I've ever heard talking about how they started drumming. It's pillows and knitting needles. And so that kind of probably went on for a few months. My dad's an artist, but he's always dabbled in there's always been some kind of musical instrument around. But at that time, when I was sort of 11, 12 and getting into drumming, he had a flugelhorn, which is a kind of it's like a bigger trumpet. And his mate, Kenny, and him played in a band. I think Dad kind of in and out a wee bit, but he said, I'll come along and, play a bit of flugelhorn. And he took me along to band practice one day. The band practice was at Kenny's dad's house, and he had an outbuilding with an upstairs, and upstairs was this fully insulated, like with egg cartons and stuff, like band practice room. And in the middle of this, when I walked in, first of all, the first thing that hit me was the smell. Band practice rooms always smell exactly the same, and I don't know what it is, and I've rehearsed in many, many different practice rooms in Glasgow and London and all over, and they all have the same smell. And I think it's a mixture of Mr. Sheen and sweat. Now, the second thing that I saw was this beautiful, shiny, red Premier drum kit. It was gleaming. It was iridescent in the corner, and I just about weed myself. I was so excited because I'd seen on the albums that I had and the pictures of drummers or drum kits or drummers behind drum kits that there was in those albums. I'd kind of gazed at them longingly, examining the cymbals and just wondering, sort of fantasizing about what kind of sound they made. And my juices got flowing for drum kits. And it was Kenny's brother, Gordon, that played it. And they had a break. So I sat in and listened to them playing, and the sound was unbelievable. The noise and the level of noise was just remarkable. The most exciting thing was that when they had a break, like they had a 15, 20-minute break, and Gordon said, do you want to have a go? I went, yes. So when they all went, I sat down behind this kit for 20 minutes and beat the hell out of it and just imagined I was a rock god.
And that was the first time you sat behind a kit?
That was the first time I'd sat behind a kit, was when I was about 12.
Had you already been hitting your mother's pillows with knitting needles for a few months?
Oh, for a few weeks, I think. But then the wonderful thing was, after that, after Gordon obviously saw how excited I was by it, he had a practice kit, which he had made, I think, just out of plywood and rubber pads. And there was like 4 pads in the sort of shape of a drum kit. He lent it to me. He gave me a long-term loan of it. So I had it for about a year, and we just moved out to a place called Trinent in East Lothian to a sort of bigger house, because my dad, even though it was a council house, my dad had said that he needed space to work for his art and stuff. So we got this council house in Trinent that was like a 5-bedroom council house, and it was like a detached thing on its own. And I played those practice pads for a year and a half, and then eventually Gordon went, have you still got those practice pads? But by then I was like, I was totally in love. So drumming has always been at the forefront of whenever I hear anything, it's always the drumming that I fall in love with first. So I love Dave Grohl, and Clem Burke he's still the best.
Just to sort of head him off at the pass, because I know he's itching, and be honest, either he's died or his Wi-Fi has dropped out or he's just showing a level of self-assurance that I didn't know he had. But Marcus himself
indeed
is an enthusiastic drummer.
I just totally fell in love with the description of how you fell in love with drumming. And I stopped being a producer of a podcast and I was just a listener in awe of that story. I came to drumming much later in life, in my 40s, when I suddenly had an urge to drum. But I was a guitarist at school. I always had a feel for drums. And I just took lessons in my 40s and I've got a kit in the basement at work. I've occasionally played with another guitarist and that's a weird experience. But I don't know whether have you been in a band?
Yeah, that was going to be my question.
Yes, that was the next step forward, really, because it didn't progress any further than just in my bedroom with these practice pads. And once the practice pads left, it left me, really. I mean, I still loved drumming and, I still, tapped around on my legs and stuff, but I never really, I mean, I would have been maybe 13, 14. And I think there was little dalliances at school, or no, it was after school. It was after we left school. And I think my mate Keith and his mate Keith, they started a sort of band. I think I went down once to rehearsal rooms to drum along with them one time, but that was it. But I'd kind of grounded myself. I had a grounding. I'd taught myself, the basic 4/4 beat, and I've taught myself everything really that I know. My drumming's not great, but everything that I know is mine. I also taught my brother. My brother is now a percussionist. So I didn't teach him. I taught him the 4/4 thing and he loved mucking around on the kit as well. But he's now a proper drummer,
When did you get your first kit?
There's another kind of funny thing. So I've never had one.
Back up. Do you not have any drums at home?
That's what I'm getting onto that, you see, because that's what inspired me to choose above the three choices that I had for this podcast.
Yeah.
I thought, one of them is an old thing, which I'll never probably go back to. Another one is a sort of ongoing thing, which is fairly interesting, but not really that interesting. And the other one is drumming. And drumming is the one that I know I am going to go back to because I'm going to buy, I'm kind of, not at the moment, but maybe when things become a bit clearer about our livelihoods, I'm going to buy an electronic drum kit for down here. I'm lucky enough to have a room at the bottom of the garden, which is quite big. And it's where I'm sat now, actually. It's got my hi-fi set up. I built a wee voice booth in the corner, but there's room for a drum kit as well. And I've got my electric guitar. I play guitar as well, but I want to get back into the drums. And I think my boy would really love the drums as well. I think they both would, actually. Both my kids would. But I think Samuel's got an inkling towards drumming, I think. And I really want a digital kit so you just put your headphones on and you've got a choice of, 170 drum kits.
Yeah. And
you can play along to all your favourite tunes. And that's just what I want to do, really. Yes, I've never had my own drum kit, but I've always used the drum kits at rehearsal rooms because there's always a kit in a practice room. And so gigging, we didn't do much gigging. We did a lot of practicing, but we didn't do much gigging because I didn't have a kit. The band that I was in were called the Blimps. This was at college when I went to drama college when I was 23. A guy called Mike Morland, who's still a very good friend of mine, he wanted to start a band and they discovered him and his mate Tony had always played music together since they were wee, and they're brilliant songwriters. And they've been through various incarnations with various bands and stuff, just sort of kids stuff, and when we got to college and they learned that I was a drummer, and then we went down the practice rooms for the first sort of rehearsal and they were like, oh, brilliant, you really, I actually nicked, for the very first song we played together, I stole one of Gordon Munro's riffs, the guy that let me sit on his drum kit when I was 12. One of his riffs really struck a chord with me and I nicked it for the very first song I played with the Blimps. It was hilarious. Yeah, so that was the band that we had at college. We did about 3 gigs. We played Strathclyde Union. We played at college as well, the final year dance or whatever it was, our final year piss up. And we had mostly our own songs and we played a couple of covers, undertones and, whatnot. We were sort of punk,
I was just going to sort of point out that there are kind of gradations of B-sides. And, some people, they do sort of, their B-side will never take them out of their spare bedroom and whatnot. But despite the fact fact that you've never owned a set of drums, you have actually played bona fide gigs.
We were at drama school and there was like 3 years worth of drama students, and then there was a music students as well. So we just got them all to come whenever we played, and they were very supportive, you know.
I didn't know this B-side would emerge as drumming, but you have a theory, Ed, that a lot of people's B-sides are atavistic, and the drumming would certainly fall into that category, would it not?
What does atavistic mean?
It means sort of primal, sort of ancient, sort of prehistory, pre kind of consciousness, sort of so it's just in your body.
Oh, right.
The B-sides so far have been Ed's archery, and there was, but Ed's description of archery felt quite atavistic, quite ceremonial, connecting with nature and stillness. And then we had Catherine, who was a pond swimmer. That was her B-side. And now we've got
like freshwater swimming.
And now we've got drumming. Right. It's all it feels quite primal.
It's all falling into place. I think I better start dusting off my Nobel Prize for anthropology, because it's a shoo-in. I don't know if the Lancet is still publishing in COVID, but they better clear some space in the next issue.
The thing I love about drumming is the state of oblivion that you can reach in drumming. Yeah. It's meditative, no different to when you're doing archery, or when Catherine is doing her pond swimming. There's a meditative thing to drumming that's obvious.
There is definitely that when you're drumming, when you get into a zone. If you're on your own, I would go further and say that when you're in a band, or indeed I've done one musical in my life, and singing also has the same thing. Well, it's a band of sorts, isn't it? It's a choir. But when you're either singing or playing together, and something unspoken, atavistic, I suppose, clicks into all of you at the same time, it takes you to somewhere else. It definitely takes you to somewhere else. There is something that is other about 4 or however many people playing music together, making music together.
Yeah. And is that something that you crave? Or, well, crave may be too strong a word, but is that something that draws you to drumming? That feeling that you maybe don't get in your just everyday life?
I would say that I do probably get it in my everyday life. Not in my everyday life, but in my everyday work life. If I'm working, I think there is a similar thing with acting, that if you're certainly on stage, not so much on camera, but it can happen. But on stage, I would say definitely you know, it's that good show, bad show thing. You know, you come off stage exhilarated because you've had the most incredible night and everybody's buzzing, you know, but you don't know what it is. It's that age-old tale about Olivier coming off as Othello, I think it was, and the stage manager saying to him, "It was a wonderful show tonight, Mr. Olivier." He's going, "Yes, but I don't know why." You know, that thing that you can't put your finger on. That is the other. It's definitely something that is. That I yearn for and have for a long time. I mean, I pick up and play the guitar now and again.
So you're going to get yourself an electric drum kit?
Yes, I am. And I've decided that once I know where the next money's coming from, once this is all over, that's going to be a purchase that I want to make, because I've realized that there's very few ways I can make money. In fact, there's only one way that I can make money, and that is by acting, it seems, because I've tried everything else in my life. And I know because I've been homeschooling for the last 3 months, I know that teaching definitely isn't one of the ways I can fucking make money. Well, that's been a slog.
Yeah.
But I mean, I obviously love them, but it's hard work. Oh my God. I think that once I know that everything's going to return to a bit of normality and I've got some money coming in again, I really, really want to buy a drum kit, because I think it always speaks to me and it's always in me, and it's I just miss it. I miss it. And I had a shot of a drum kit. I was rehearsing a play for the Royal Court in rehearsal rooms near, not Clapham Common, Clapham Junction, and it was a wee walk from Clapham Junction, sort of almost at the river. And I there was a brilliant new studio, but they'd just made a documentary about Clem Burke, and I got chatting to the guy that owned the place and everything. He was really nice, and he gave me a copy of the documentary. It was really good. But they had like music studios downstairs, and they had like a rehearsal space upstairs, which is where we were. And he said, because I'd seen the kit in the rehearsal room, and I said, "Can I have a shot of the kit?" And he went, yeah, because I'm always quite embarrassed because I've not played for so long. I don't practice at all. So I sound terrible when I get on a kit. You know, it takes me a couple of days to get back and to strengthen the muscles that you need, you know, mentally and physically to play. So yeah, I went in and bashed the hell out of it while listening to Blondie on my Walkman, on my phone. And that was great. But I was very aware that I could be heard, you know, so I was a bit embarrassed. But no, down the bottom of the garden here, nobody can hear me. That's why I turn my music up really loud, and you know, it's great.
Should we just say, just for the sake of argument, should we say that you being on B-sides has spurred you on to purchase your first ever drum kit? Should we just say that? Let's say that, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's say that.
All right. Me. Do you know what? Me being on B-sides has spurred me on to buy my next drum kit. My first drum kit.
I couldn't be more delighted, Mark. It's been such a pleasure. I've so missed you. Bloody hell.
Oh, mate. Really.
Anyway,
it's been really good to spend a bit of time together.
Oh, it's been lovely just to hear you.
Even though I've just rabbited on.
No, I'm going to play this back tonight, and as I go to sleep, and I'm just going to fall asleep to your dulcet tones. Anyway, listen.
Hey, listen, I've got...
Yeah?
Can I ask you something?
Go on.
I've got one of our old songs, the Blimps' old songs, teed up on my hi-fi right now, which might be... you might not be able to hear it very well, but
go on.
Shall I play you out with that?
Totally.
A wee bit.
Out.
It's got a drumming intro.
Stick it on.
The mic should be good enough to get it.
Exactly. Mark.
Listen, how much of this do you want me to play?
Just play us through your drum solo.
Well, it's not a solo. It's just it starts like a millisecond before everything else does.
Give it to us.
All right. I'll try and turn it up a bit as well. Hang on.
Mark, thank you so much.
Ed.
What a pleasure.
I
believe I'm hearing in my earpiece that you're actually going to play us out this week with a song from the band you were in at drama school some 25 years ago. What was the name of the band, please?
The name of the band was The Blimps, taken from the Captain Beefheart song.
Excellent. And the song you'll be playing for us tonight is
In the Glass.
One more time.
This is The Blimps with Life in the Glass.
Oof. God, I love it already. All right, away you go.
See if I can. Hold on. What's happening? Okay. Right, here we go.
And that was the actor and drummer Mark Bonnar on B-Sides with Ed Stoppard. Next week for Extraordinary, I'll be talking to a man called John Park, who between 2002 and 2012 attempted with an army of passionate theatre volunteers to review the British fringe theatre scene. John is interesting because in that period he was instrumental in supporting so many emerging artists. If you're new to Extraordinary, together with B-Sides, hosted by my colleague Ed, you can catch us on Spotify or Apple weekly, and then on YouTube a week later. Thank you and goodbye.